Yo!
That was on fire. Welcome to another episode of the Bantu Boyz Podcast. I'm your host, Blako Aziza Wisa, here with
Julian Tukuna. Welcome on board with us.
Yes, and our manager,
Patrick Delabanza.
Yes, and we have a very, very excellent guest. Like, I'm very, very excited to have him here. I'm excited for all of our guests, but like this guest, I'm like thoroughly impressed. We did our research on him. You know, we have to like check your background and you're like who you know and stuff like that. So, yeah, please introduce yourself, please.
My name is Oliver Kupe, Oliver Joe Kupe.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Thanks for having me on. Been watched a few of your videos. Highly impressed with what you guys do and the message. So happy to be here.
Excellent. Hey, what's called Patrick and Julie. I'll go first, and then we'll go question to question or whatever, right? So, yeah, Oliver. So, who are you? Where are you from? What's your background? How did you get into financial planning?
There you go. So, origin story, right? With my mom and dad, we're representing obviously Congo. So my dad is Muyanzi, mom is Suko, so they grew up in the Manuda state, so right by Kikwit. And so my parents moved from after boarding school and high school, they immigrated to West Germany to study. So Aachen, Germany, Institute of Technology, Technical University. In the 70s. They then had my two older siblings in Germany, in Aachen, Germany. So my sister Carla, who's out here in Chicago, attorney, and my sister Laura, who's out in DC, also attorney, but works for the government.
Right.
Can't really say what she does all the time.
Oh, by the way, Oliver, I'm beefing with your sister, Laura. By the way, I don't know why, but I'm just beefing. I'm just a major hater.
She's a controversial figure. You know,
right.
She keeps alive during all our family meetings. But then myself and my parents then moved from Germany, from Aachen, Germany. My dad worked for GM, moved us to Luxembourg, small country group, 500,000 people. We were probably the only black people in our little town. But I was born there along with my younger sister, Johanna, who's out in San Francisco, working in tech recruiting. And so that's our family nucleus until we moved to the States in 97. We moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan, again with GM. The plan was only, as my dad would tell you, to only stay here, 5-10 years. As soon as we got out of school, parents wanted us to get an American education, and moved us to Grand Rapids. When we went to Grand Rapids, we went to the east side, to Detroit after that. Myself, I was a soccer player, so I'm repping the PSG jersey right now.
Okay.
Kylian Mbappe. So was a soccer player, was able to stand out playing soccer, was recruited to go play at Northwestern University.
Oh, nice.
I was an econ major there, as well as playing on the soccer team. And then once I graduated, was drafted in the MLS, but didn't end up playing. Actually skipped and actually started working with Merrill Lynch after a couple of tryouts. And the reason I went into wealth management I kind of fell into it just because of kind of the cycle of the MLS and when that basically the draft period was, and then the recruiting process with the big investment banks or consulting firms that kind of passed. So I kind of came in trying to think, how do I apply, my finance and economic background in a workplace, and what am I actually passionate about? And one of the big things from being, from my family, what I noticed is like, man, no one ever talks about money.
Right.
A lot of people going to school, getting a lot of degrees, and including a lot of student loan debt.
Right.
But again, no one was really talking about the finances with my family, or really around most of my extended family either. So I had a big interest in just finances and money management. I was able to get a career, start off at Merrill Lynch, and was really fortunate to meet my first business partner and really built some really unique niches within my clientele that really has brought us from, probably from Merrill Lynch to now owning our own investment advisory firm.
Wow, that's impressive. So wait, you did not. So you tried out with MLS, and you're like, no, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, essentially, it was. I mean, at that point in time, Real Salt Lake drafted me. I was actually on my way to an interview. I was actually in an interview
Right.
with a bank here in Chicago when my phone started ringing off the hook in the coat closet, and the interview was like, hey, you should probably take that, because I was going off about 10, 15 minutes.
Right.
And the text message, hey, you just got drafted by Real Salt Lake City with the 65th pick in the MLS draft. So I'm like, shit, like, what do I guess I'm out. Like, I literally left the interview and began to train in and get the training camp in Seattle and then in Arizona. So that was my experience playing soccer, and I realized I was a fringe player. The contracts back then were like 60, 50, it was a nice living, $50,000 for your league minimum.
Yeah.
But to me, it was like, man, like my parents are, after paying what they paid for Northwestern, I earned that out of school. And so I was really blessed that happened, but I knew that there was a career I wanted to get started on first. And somehow I'll find my way back to being involved with professional sports.
Okay, that's great. First of all, you got drafted, so that's incredible. I don't care what it is. You got drafted. Like, I love basketball, but I'm a fringe 5'11". Wrap it up. You know what I'm saying? And I'm kind of athletic, so
Yeah. I used to play basketball too with Draymond in high school. So because he's from Detroit area, Michigan. So yeah, we played him in the state semifinal. Check Draymond Green, man. So when he went to Michigan State and I was at Northwestern, but I was in the stands watching our basketball guys play. We remembered each other. So so Day.
He looks like
we'll talk a lot of trash.
He looks like he doesn't put lotion on. Like, I love him. I love the way he plays. He just looks. That's just me. I'm a hater. No, go ahead, Patrick or Julie. Go to the next question.
Yeah. So what's the difference?
Your
you really kind of explain, your financial path. My question would be like, what's the difference between what you're doing and a broker does?
Yeah. So I think the industry has changed, has forced the title to change of what used to be a stockbroker. Mm-hmm. And right in the 80s, everyone's seen Wolf of Wall Street, or just Wall Street, the movie. It's the guys in the boiler room that would cold call 400, 500 people a day and pitch, Kodak stock or Microsoft. And that would be your broker. And you would build your clientele based off of your cold call list. And you would only call that investor, and they wouldn't even call them clients back then, but your investor, anytime you had a new investment to pitch. And what has now kind of changed from the 80s and 90s and now into modern day wealth management is that people were pitching investment ideas to folks that shouldn't have been investing in those, right? It was all about selling the idea, collecting the commission, hanging up the phone and on to the next one, not caring if you sold somebody a penny stock.
Yeah.
Everything went bottom, went belly up in terms of their investments. Now, I think because of the 01 bubble, and then obviously for the financial crisis, where banks and financial institutions finally got put on blast in the sense of all the, I would say, negligent behavior they're having, and selling bad loans, bad mortgages, bad investment advice, and look what happened, right? The world almost ended.
Lovely.
When I came into the business, that was almost all eradicated. They put new standards of how you need to. They pretty much eliminated the word broker, and working for a firm like Merrill Lynch, which actually disappeared, right? They went to $0 on the stock market and were gone.
Oh.
And so Bank of America had to come in and bail them out, and that's why it's Bank of America and Merrill Lynch. So I kind of came into the era where now we are financial advisors or financial planners. And the biggest difference is that we now we have fiduciary responsibility. I'm sure everyone hears about fiduciary responsibility. What does that mean? It means that you have to have any recommendations you make have to be in the best interest of the client. It has to be conscientious about their risk tolerance, right? How much risk they can take. What are their liquidity needs, access to cash, and kind of most importantly, you have to know what their goals are. Right? What the investments are essentially a piece of what makes your financial plan. And so what we changed the game and naturally, but also what our firm does is kind of leads with it. We're financial planners. We got to know who you are, what your motivations are, what your interests are, what are you working for, who are you working, what are you working towards, and then being able to first identify those, and then putting together a financial plan that might address those needs and those goals without even having to discuss investments yet. Investment piece is the last thing that comes into play once you've understood, all right, here's your fund, here's your goals,
Yeah.
here's the funding needs for those goals, here's when they need to be funded, because right, you have different goals for different times in your life. Okay, what investment products will then create the cash flow or the ability to then fund those goals? And so that's where we move from a traditional stockbroker, where you don't even know that person's maybe last name or anything about them.
Wow.
Telling them that stock or that investment, where we know the entire person, their financial plan, in order to then make the appropriate investment recommendation. So it's planning first, investment second, where brokers are investment first, zero planning.
Okay.
Okay. Wow.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
We all just like,
No, I feel like I'm just learning. I'm on my phone. I text my homeboys. I'm with this investment planner right now. My brain is blown. 5 minutes in. Because like
Communication.
right, because when people just talk about like investment and money, they're like, okay, when you get money, just invest.
Right.
But I was like, that's vague. I don't know what that means.
It's
We're not fiscally like educated as like people.
and so much of it for me was seeing and know, like on my little soapbox here, about these big banks.
Sure.
And hiring these young advisors like myself in our in our early mid-20s, and they're asking us to go get assets of people who are, they said our minimum assets that we have to bring in a household essentially to get credit and be actually gain revenue from it had to be $250,000 or more. So you're asking me, a 23-year-old, to go and black 23-year-old, mind you, hey, give me your IRA or 401k money to invest. People are like, no, like, what are you doing? And so the system kind of puts us in a place where we, as young people, as an advisor, we weren't able to really get the assets that we wanted to survive in the business. I got, again, fortunate to find these really unique niches to pull me up and get me through that. But then from like you said, from an individual standpoint who's trying to figure out where to start, and all they see is all these advertisements. Oh, I made this much money in the stock market. Oh, I made this much money in real estate. Give me $10,000 and I'll flip it to 100. Like, no one knows like that. Those are all these things that makes people nervous, thinking, oh my God, I'm behind. I don't know where to start. Look what everyone else is doing. It's the show me society where it's doing the same thing in terms of personal finance, where you just got to go down to the basics. Like, dude, get a budget, have a savings account, make sure you max out your retirement accounts. If you have any sort of excess savings left after that, make sure you have 6 months of it lined up, because I bet now a lot of people wish they would have. And then excess of that, you can start playing in the taxable market and to investing. So there's so many steps that you have to do to first feel comfortable to actually engage into investing.
wow. That's all that's gonna be saying. Like, yeah, wow, yes.
Sure.
Oh man. So I mean, you already kind of went into the next question, like how the firm came about. But yeah, how did the firm came about? And one thing I did want to know, I understand it's a women and minority owned wealth advisory firm.
Yep. So I mentioned my partner before, who I met, Annie Werner. So right when I started at Merrill, I came in as a sole proprietor, sole practitioner. So I had to grow out my own book. I didn't get looped into a big financial management team that had millions and millions of dollars under investment or managing that was going to give me a piece. They were like, you're going to eat what you kill. And about 3 months into the business, my first kind of big client opportunity came up, and I was introduced to my first exoneree, Jonathan Barr. And exoneree, those are individuals who have been wrongfully convicted and have been exonerated, from their crimes and from prison. I got introduced to Jonathan through an alumni at Northwestern, who I was at an event, and he did prison ministry in the Illinois penitentiary system. And he, he's like, hey, I heard you just started out at Merrill Lynch. I got a very interesting friend of mine who and his brother who are about to come in a lot of money. And so he's like, hey, these guys spent 17 years wrongfully convicted for a murder rate that they never didn't commit. They were brothers, Jonathan Barr and James Harden. Their case is pretty notable. They're called the Dixmore Five.
Oh, another one? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they were 14 and 16 when they went in and came out, 17, 20 years later.
Wow.
And so that was, they got a civil settlement from the county and the state of Illinois. And so I was able to manage those assets. And to this day, Jonathan's my brother, pretty much a godfather to his daughter. He has a thriving business, but that was my first big client. And when I got my first big client, the firm started noticing, it's like, hey, you need to partner with different advisors to help you out with managing, this multi-million-dollar client. And the one person that I met within the firm that I was like, man, you don't need anybody, like you can do this, was this woman at the time, Annie Werner. And Annie was in charge of a $3 billion team in Merrill and was managing assets of households of only 20 million and above. So she was a Northwestern grad, and I got introduced to her through a mutual colleague. And she was the first person I met that really was in it for the right reason, right, to make a difference in their clients' lives. It wasn't about the money, it was about the leading with the planning. And to start out, I was the only black person under 40 years old at Merrill Lynch, Chicago's office, all 3 locations.
Wow. Okay, there it is.
Like it was, I think there was 5 of us in the Metro Chicago area, which is insane considering the black wealth and history that Chicago has. That we only have 5 black advisors in over 120 advisors in Chicago. So that was something that kind of led to Annie and I, who was one of the few young females to be in the business, to kind of team up. Like, hey, let's really go out and get the clientele that previously didn't think their money was good enough to be with the Merrills and the JP Morgans. So that is the black investors, female investors who felt so alienated by the financial services industry for so long. We wanted them to put a change in that. And so that's where we teamed up, and we've been together for 10 years now. It's really a long relationship with a female besides my siblings or my mom. So she's that type of friend and partner to me. When we left Merrill, we decided to really focus on females, minorities as clients, but also the makeup of our team. So we got 4 women, 3 men on our team, one other brother that works with us, Cam Dickerson. And we were able to really build on the momentum from Jonathan Barr to now working with 12 exonerees in the last 10 years. 286 years stolen from them combined. And then at the side, then the other unique thing that we were able to really curate was professional athletes, right? Leveraging my contacts during my playing days, being in contact with athletes at Northwestern that made it in the various leagues, and building up our athlete platform. And we've been able to work with about 12 athletes over the last 10 years as well.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What can you explain to the people? What is the name of your company?
Oh, of course. Yeah, A&O Advisors. So Amy and Oliver Advisors. So A&O, and then we officially left Merrill in November 2017.
Okay.
And we, at that time, were left about 30 million assets under management and advisement. We left Merrill. Today we are at about 100 million in just the last year and a half or 2 years. Time flies. And right now we have about 48 households that we work with, 70 clients. And like I said, probably a third is exonerees, a third is athletes, and the rest of the third is just your general high net worth individuals.
Okay. So you're based out of Chicago. I don't know if this is a question down the line. We have down the line. I'm probably jumping the gun. But are you willing to work outside of Illinois and Chicago? Your city?
Oh yeah. We have clients in 13 different states.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the majority of our clientele is in Illinois. Our largest clients are in California. So we have our California, New York, New Jersey area. So we're bi-coastal, and we have clients in Montana, Kentucky, you name it. So yeah, we definitely can go and work with anybody.
Is it possible for you to, for the next question, if you tell us some of the work you do with athletes a little bit more specifically? I mean, of course, you don't have to say, oh, I work with this athlete or that athlete.
Yeah, so with our athletes, we really like to work with our athletes from the beginning. Right before draft day, we really built some really good relationships with some agents, brand managers, just people who are kind of that first person that a professional athlete engages with.
Yes.
And so we've been able to, like these folks, these agents, these are friends of ours, people that went to Northwestern. Again, I got to tell Northwestern has a great pipeline of successful individuals in the field. But we were able to kind of get, when we bring on an athlete, let's say we got a few guys that got drafted this week or last week. It's really first understanding who their nucleus is, right? Because with these athletes, as soon as they get drafted, even before, right, you know it's coming with a gang of people.
Right.
The first thing that we really want to understand with a young guy who's 19, 20, 21 years old, who's never handled a budget or most money in most cases ever.
Right.
It's about our first understanding who are the people around you, who are the people that we know we're going to be engaging with, mom, dad, uncle, brother, whoever.
Right.
And then being able to really tell them how the relationship is going to kind of it's always about creating those boundaries, right? Like, here's what we do. Here's who we'll talk to about your money.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go from there. But we really take their signing bonus. We make sure we create a budget.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to create boundaries. The budget is the biggest thing. That's the athletes. It's 50% of that contract money that you see that's all they take home. About 50% of that is take home.
Exactly. Right.
Agent fees, taxes, Uncle Sam. That's 50% of that contract is out. So them understanding that, the people around them understanding that, we kind of have a rule with our athletes that we need you, especially in your first contract, you need to be saving at least 85, 90% of your every paycheck. That's got to go in savings. You got to build up at 6 to 12 month savings. After that, we get them into some more of the unique stuff, some of the pre-IPO stocks, some of the alternative investments that they hear. And I think guys like LeBron and KD and Steph Curry, this new generation of athletes that are so mindful about their money and investing, has really influenced the people that the young guys we get to work with now. They've seen the horrible stories from broke. Antoine Walker.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't want to put everyone on blast, but
absolutely.
But those stories, these young guys understand that. So it's really cool to be in a room with some of these rookies that got drafted, and they're not worried about buying a car first. They're not worried about buying a house. They're like, hey, how can we make this money? I know I'm about to pay all these taxes. How do we save more of this? And that's when you realize there's been a culture change within these young athletes, which is perfect for us.
Is there I'm sorry, Patrick, Julian, is there like a common resistant, is there any type of resistance or issue you have with this newer athlete? Because I just assume they're like, no, I want to get jewelry and I want to get a car and I got to buy this house for my mom or my dad.
Yeah. We've been fortunate enough to not have too many of those situations. And again, I want to give all that credit to these young guys and their families that they come from, that have pretty much made it easier for us to kind of mold them into being more savvy investors and savers. But there has been situations. I mean, I think it actually might happen even when they get that second contract or that third contract, where it gets kind of crazy, where it's cars or multiple homes, and you have to really monitor. When they're young, they're willing to listen, right? They don't kind of know any better. They haven't been in the locker room too long where they hear the other big guys talk about what they have. And I think that's such a difficult, I think it's just part of the culture, right, that we're in. You see what this person has, I should have it too, even though we're playing we're in whole different categories financially. I think that's got to be one thing we remind our young guys is, look, I know you're over there, chilling next to Russell Wilson with his beautiful, with Sierra driving 3 cars, but you're a rookie. You need to build your way up to that. Let's not skip any steps.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing with them is just constant education. And that's the biggest thing that we want them to be is, at the end of the day, we want to be financially independent. We don't want them having to call us for every single reason. We want them to use their heads and know, hey, this is the wrong reason, this is the wrong buy, or this is the right investment. So that's really what I think has changed. And so there's not too much resistance these days with our guys, at least.
Okay.
Patrick Julian, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Who? Patrick?
No, it's your turn, Julian.
Okay.
I think we're on number 4 right now.
Yeah. So, what are the basic financial rules that everyone should follow?
Number one rule: don't spend more than you make. Right? That I feel like that's such a common rule that people. Sometimes I'm always like, well, why? No wonder you don't have anything in your bank account, man. You made $10 and you're trying to spend 11, and it's those things that really basic rule of don't spend more than you make, and so many people forget to factor in taxes after that and social benefits that you're paying into to make sure that you're not spending more than you make. And that's kind of the first thing that we lead with, and then we look at the budget. So creating your own budget, and I think that about only 20% of Americans know how much they spend on a monthly basis. Like if you were to ask, not going to ask you guys, but would you know right now how much you spend on a monthly basis? And if you don't know that, that's an issue. Yeah. And do you know your fixed expenses more likely than your discretionary? But do you know what your fixed expenses are? And most Americans, about 4/5 Americans wouldn't be able to tell you that answer right away. Mm-hmm. So that right there is a huge problem. That is the biggest problem and it doesn't. There's no, I'd say, bias between how old you are or your race. We've met wealthy white folks who have tens of millions of dollars who don't know what their budget is. We have met so it doesn't matter. It's more about just people taking the time to put together the budget. So that's the number one thing, basic rule: don't spend more than you make. Create your budget, and I think beyond that is, if you have savings after that, how do you then apply your savings appropriately? Well, the first thing that you should save towards is your emergency savings. That's the first place where excess cash is available. Stash 6, and really depending on what everyone kind of knows and feels the job security, especially right now, to have 6 months of at least of your fixed expenses put away in a savings account in case you lose your job and COVID happens or whatnot. You have the 6 months to tap into, because usually the job, your average unemployment is ranging from 6 to 8 months. Mm-hmm. So that is an important factor to kind of keep in mind. Hey, 6 to 8 months of expenses. If you have a family and your expenses are less flexible to change, then you want to put about 12 months. Young folks like us, we can make extra sacrifice. I can stop watching Netflix. I can cancel my Hulu subscription. I can do all these little things. Or maybe you have a family and it's harder to dial it down. You probably want to have more savings available.
Can I ask you this, Oliver? Could you explain what a fixed expenses are?
Fixed expense. So we like to kind of categorize our expenses as essential, non-essential. I love how those words all matter now. Essential, and aspirational, and 3 buckets. And essential, meaning your fixed expenses, those are your utilities, your rent, things you need to pay to live. Mm-hmm. But there's no discretion about you having to pay these items or not. These are stuff that you have to pay. Absolutely. Or the lights are going to go off. And so those are what we call fixed expenses. Mm-hmm. And so essential, non-essential, that could be where you have more discretionary kind of control over your budget, meaning like your haircuts, right, how much you got to eat, shopping, all that. Then we have our aspirational. It's like if I can fulfill my essential, my non-essential, and I now have some left over, my aspirational bucket, usually that falls into travel or very large purchases like a car or something like that. So those are how we split it up. But fixed expenses, those are the expenses that you need to pay to live.
Okay, I don't know. Oh, my fault. Got to go to the next one.
No. Okay. Because you've started to actually answer some of the next questions we had coming up, because what I was going to ask you is, for someone who's more middle class, but you've kind of talked about the different things, but I guess for someone more middle class, working class, where can they start with financial plan? But I know obviously you already said it already, just don't spend more than you make, that sort of thing. But Is there anything else special that you would say for some people in our communities where money's a little bit tighter for them?
Mm-hmm. So I think the budget is always a good place to start. I think what we always ask our clients is, what is the ultimate goal with your money? Is it to support your family? Is it to raise a family? Is it to buy a house? Mm-hmm. We can find so many different ways to kind of make sure that these expenses, these goals are being able to be funded. It's just always going to start with your budget and your ability to have free cash flow. If you're going paycheck to paycheck, that's unfortunately the situation. And there's without having to, and we always, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, we never encourage somebody to go out and then find credit to then maybe have an extra inflow of cash or available credit to live. We always find that could be a trap. But for the middle and working class, the one thing that we always want to remember is that I think most people eventually want to think about retirement or having a nest egg available once you're done working. And I remember my mentor in Maryland always said that no one's going to pay you to retire, especially our generation or Generation X or Y. A pension is not going to exist for us. There is no, and I think is one of the questions we were talking about. Social Security, especially after now, all the free money, the health is going around. You better believe that we're never going to participate in government-funded retirement benefits. So, meaning that even though money might be tight, and if you're able to save and then create a little nest egg in terms of your emergency savings, please make sure to contribute to your retirement account if you are able to have one. That includes if you have an employee, if you're employed, max or at least dump money into your 401k, especially if there's matching, because that's free money this company's giving you. There's nowhere else where you can put money into an account and someone's going to match it or give you free money. You can leave that stuff in cash and it's still a return. So tapping into your 401k, investing into that, or at least funding that, especially if there's a match, you're getting something in return from your employer, and that's going up tax-free or tax-deferred, so you can build up and have a nest egg when you're done. I think that's the one thing that in our community, the Black community especially, we live paycheck to paycheck, but we think we're really cash rich, meaning we have high salaries, but we're not great savers, and we're not saving the right vehicles. And so I think after saving emergency savings, looking into investing or contributing to your 401k or setting up an individual retirement account, an IRA, is another vehicle where you can start to kind of put money in for retirement. Because that's the one thing when we're 60, 70, 80 years old, and we're not going to be able to make any more income or be part of the workforce, how are we going to live? Well, that's your 401k and IRA is exactly for that purpose, and that is at zero balance. You're going to be in trouble. So even you might forego getting a car or buying something extra that month, that $100 or $200 you want to spend doing something else, put that in your IRA, put that in your 401k. There's a long ways from that, from tapping into it, and you can start right now.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Could you explain what an IRA Roth is? Could you explain that?
Sure. So there's two types of qualified retirement accounts or retirement accounts, right? It's an employer-based retirement account. That's your 401k. If you work for a for-profit company, a 403b, which is for nonprofit organizations or schools. That's your employer-based retirement plan. So those you can fund up to. IRS allows you to fund $19,000 a year in contributions to your 401k or 403 employer-based plan. And that's the one where we would encourage to invest in first or fund first if you have the ability, especially if there's a matching ability by your employer, and you can contribute higher amounts. Now, if you're contributing to your 401k, there's another vehicle that you can use. Retirement account called an individual retirement account or IRA, and there's kind of two versions of that. And all the difference is between the 401k and IRA is that you are the owner of it. You own the IRA, where the 401k is owned and operated by the company and whatever Fidelity, wherever it's held. That's where the 401k is. The IRA is yours, and you can fund up to, if you were under the age of 50, you can fund up to $6,000 a year into your IRA, individual retirement account. And the IRA works exactly like a 401k, meaning it's tax deferred, meaning you contribute, you can grow, and the taxes are deferred until you actually withdraw the money. And you can start withdrawing money out of your 401k or your IRA at 59 and a half years old, so 60 years old, without penalty. If you withdraw your money out early, you're gonna hit with a 10% penalty, early withdrawal hit, plus you're gonna have to pay the taxes on whatever you withdraw. So the IRA kind of serves as a vehicle next to your 401k as an extra place where you can fund your retirement. Even if you don't have a 401k, you can still always have an IRA. As long as you have earned income or cash in let's say your checking account, you can contribute yearly into an IRA. And so that's where we say if you max out your 401k, max out your IRA if possible. That's $26,000 in basically retirement savings you can put away.
Yeah.
And what if you are under a certain income level, you can actually deduct your contributions from your taxable income. So if I make $100,000 a year, and I put $26,000 between my 401k and IRA, I'm only going to get taxed on $24,000 or $74,000 income. So I'm going to pay less in taxes as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Patrick, we can stop the podcast. I've learned so much. I'll get some. Julian, you want to do number 6?
Yeah, I go for it.
Yeah.
Where do you, first of all, so it's like a one question, but in 2 questions. So where do accumulator starts? And then what's an accumulator?
So an accumulator is anybody. So I think it's right, comes from accumulator to a saver to an investor. That's kind of I would say the natural progression. And right now, most people, right, first, I think probably anyone between age 25 and 35 is in any kind of accumulation phase. We're accumulating your assets. We're finally saving something after our paycheck. And that is just, I think that is the first part of basically phasing into an accumulator. So, right, age demographic, definitely, 25 to 35, when you start actually having some excess savings, you are starting to put money into the retirement saving buckets that I mentioned. So that's really that accumulation phase that allows you to then become a saver by putting that money away and investing it, or being ready to invest it. That gets you from an accumulator to a saver to an investor. So accumulation is just that, hey, I'm starting to actually not live paycheck to paycheck and starting to put some cash away.
Okay. What's the opposite of an accumulator? A broke?
Oh man, yeah, pretty much. There's a lot more examples of a broke than the accumulator. That's for sure.
Like the action of purposely, like ruining your money.
Yeah, I mean, some people can get out their own way. That's what I've learned a lot in the business. Some people, bad habits. People always say bad habits are hard to shake, but better than building good habits. Right. So unfortunately, I feel like so many people, whether due to circumstance, right, most of the time, but just not being educated, just have bad habits and end up having a very difficult time getting to become an accumulator and then moving on the ladder.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oliver, how do we get out of these habits? Like, I'm from a culture and an era where growing up here, like, I love Jays. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to say this, like,
real lucky. My parents didn't buy that for me.
Here's the thing. I had an entrepreneurial spirit where I would sell candy in high school just to buy tennis shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're just a part of this culture where it's like, I need more of it.
Right. So you have, like, the fact that you hustled and were entrepreneurial, like, that's a good habit.
Right.
All you needed to do was add that habit of saving accumulation, and you would, like, so it's, I feel like so many of us have one or the other. Right. Try to combine the two and kind of stay disciplined. And you ask, like, why are these habits built? And as I'm looking at just who we serve,
Right.
It is how it's educated to us, how it's passed down. Like, right, you can't. It's hard to. It's easy to get rich, but it's hard to stay rich, and it's even more difficult to be wealthy. And you also, there's a big difference between being rich and being wealthy.
Can I ask you this? I'm sorry, Patrick and Julian. Does it seem like when you were at Merrill Lynch, so you were probably working with predominantly mostly non-Black with wealth, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like they're more worried about the future, where we're worried about the now, right? Like it's like, yo, it comes out next week. I got to get it.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the biggest part. It's just the lifestyle. I think it's also because a lot of the people that I work with, much of the older folks, they had really stable salaries. Like
right.
They weren't wage or contractors. I think that's most of what probably African American workers are, as wages, and it's not as dependable income coming in. So where there's less earning security, there's less. I would say, unfortunately, there's less. There's not as big of a deal to want to save in the appropriate. It's more, like you said, it's what's in front of me. Let me get it because I don't know if I'm able to get this later on. It is more about living in the now versus looking into the future. Because I got to say, with my parents, they didn't really know where we were going to end up. Like, right, they were just about creating opportunities for their kids and less about thinking about themselves and their retirement. And they're like, we got them over here, got them in school, they're doing well.
Right.
Our job is good. But now I'm, reaching back to them like, hey, like I want my dad to retire. I want him to chill. I want them to go back and be able to travel back to Europe and go back to the Congo and do that. But I think, again, so many of it has to do with education, how we were raised, and we build habits based off that.
I think that
go to question 7 or Patrick. I'm sorry.
Oh, wait, no, Julian, you were saying something?
No, I feel like that's totally right. It's all about getting the right information and financial education, mostly because, especially again in our culture, those are the things that we don't highlight enough. Like finances and stuff like that. Like in the Congolese culture, as soon as you get money, you're the devil. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like you sold out or something.
Exactly.
It's like, oh man, you bougie now. It's like, just take care of it.
Yeah, you can't be rules.
And that's the thing too. Like when you talk about money, it seems like you're being sort of arrogant or pompous, but it's like, no, this is a way of life. Like not money's a way of life, but this is how you can use money as a way to make your life better and other people's life better around you. And we don't talk about it. We just like, nobody talks about even how to, like, Oliver, you said don't spend more than you make, but I've heard there's like a way we're supposed to save. We're supposed to be like, your bill should be 30% of what you make a month. Is there? Yeah,
definitely there's certain, like they say your rent or your mortgage shouldn't be more than 20% of your net income. Because when you think about your budget, what's the first thing you, as a human, you got to do is like find shelter. Shelter. How much do I pay for a roof over my head? Mm-hmm. All right, that's kind of the rule of thumb that you never want to have. I mean, it depends. Obviously, it's difficult if you live in places like San Francisco and New York.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Right, Chicago. But that is usually what you want to kind of assume is I don't want to spend more than 20%, 30%, the high mark of my rent or my home expense, the net of my paycheck, monthly paycheck. So that's one rule we kind of can start at. When you look at your biggest expense, it is your rent. It is usually your mortgage. And so that is one of the rules of thumb that we kind of say if you're right out of school or you're getting your first home or you're going to start, getting out you're renting your own apartment or whatnot. That's where we say, all right, look at your paycheck, look at the net of it, times by 0.2%. Do not let that go. Your rent go above that if you want to live comfortably, because we know your fixed expenses, right? The light bill, the utilities, your car note, that probably is going to be an other third. And then your discretionary spending You want to keep that about 10 or 20% of your net paycheck. That's your haircuts, your food, and the groceries. And then the remaining 10%, you want to hopefully save. You hopefully want to save. You want to keep that 20% but like 10%, you want to be able to start putting that away and building up your nest egg, your emergency savings. And eventually you'll see that you can start to save elsewhere after you built that up.
I'm sorry. I'm taking notes. You have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm taking all these.
Seminar. We should charge this.
I know, right?
Wait, now we're taking it off live right now. Forget that.
Yeah.
Anybody watching, you want it, you're going to have to hit us with a rack.
Right.
We'll find these over here.
Three of us, three racks, right? So I mean, you kind of hinted on this, yeah, Oliver, like, about like being the first and second generation of African immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any like wealth accommodations or management challenges like unique to our like community? I know we kind of talk about like we don't talk about money, but is there any way you can like elaborate from what you see as a financial planner?
Yeah, I think what's happening now, and I think it's both in the African culture, but just the African American Black culture in general.
Mm.
We're finally starting to see people work together, and we actually host one of our partners. He does a master class on investing for our athletes. And his biggest thing was like, man, like we as Black people, especially athletes sometimes, and I think Black people in general, again, not talking about what we're doing and not collaborating on building wealth together, where the white community and was definitely the Jewish community had figured that out. Like, we're better when we work and we have a think tank of people talk. Let's buy real estate together. Let's go into some of these deals together. Let's create funds to support our businesses. And I think that is just a Black cultural thing. I think it's an African thing.
Right.
It's down to this issue where unfortunately, we don't collaborate enough. And so I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that I see, like I saw my parents go through. Like, yeah, they would talk to their family members, but it would be never about business. It was just about how's the kids doing, how's the family doing, da da da.
Or Matangas, that's it. Yeah.
And I think that is one of the biggest things that we as a community need to engage in and get better at is collaboration. And again, pertaining to the individual who teaches their athletes, like, you guys are some of the wealthiest Black people in the world, in America. How many of you guys talk about business or have gone into a actual, not just a car wash or a barbershop idea, but an actual, revenue producing, another income stream producing investment together? And it's no one raised their hands. And when you see all these other wealthy white Americans being able to kind of gather together, build funds, and that's why they own everything. I think that's the biggest thing that we need to change, culture shift, is communication and collaboration is the biggest thing that needs to.
Yeah, Oliver, you're an athlete, a former athlete. Let me ask you this. We're talking about off the air about the little bit of the Jordan dog. We can talk about that off camera. There's so much to talk about, right? Let me ask you, how the old school from the 90s, how they get mad at this generation about how they're not as competitive. Could I correlate the fact that businesses like yours that are like getting these athletes together, talking about work together, does that play a part in their competition where it's like, yo, I'm in business with this guy, so I'm not going to foul him hard in this area? Whereas
that's interesting. I never thought about. So we have a couple guys, like we have a few guys who are on the same team, right? Same NFL team, or who like 3 or 4 guys that play on the same team, and it's again this new wave of athletes. They think different. They see the big picture, and so I think they're different. They're competitors on the field when they're going against practice or games. They're a whole nother animal. That's a different type of person. But they see now, and I think one of the numbers is the stats of LeBron. LeBron's going to make, like, at the end of the day, it was like 125 million in 147 million in salary, but 1.75 billion in endorsements and off the field contracts. And so it's these guys who see, like, my playing days are numbered.
Right.
It's and I saw some of these stats for athletes. For NBA, 78% of the NBA players go broke in 5 years, file for bankruptcy. 78 NFL, 60% for NBA players, and MLB players, they go bankrupt 4 times quicker than the average American. So these guys have usually playing careers between 3 and 7 years. They make close to, if they get to that 7-year mark, usually 5 to 25 million in total earnings, and it's all being done before they're 35. And so they now realize, look, I can be a great athlete, but at the end of the day, like, these teammates of mine or these competitors of mine could be my business partners for the next 50 years. And not just a teammate or a rival for this short 5-year period of my life.
Right.
I think that's what guys are realizing is, yeah, you're my competitor on the field, but man, off the field, you and I can make a lot of money, and that's the money that's going to take us create generational wealth. And that's, I think, the mindset that's changed a lot within our athletes.
Incredible. Pat, Julie, you guys want to get number 8 or Pat?
Well, let me get the next one because you skipped over me, buddy.
Brother, I'm excited.
No, I'm just playing with you. But well, actually, it's funny. I think you'll probably answer the next 3 questions with just this one question. Mm-hmm. So obviously, we've been hearing you've been just giving us great knowledge. So for the people who are now inspired to go out and try to get a financial planner, find a financial planner, what are the questions that should they ask them to vet them to make sure that they're legit?
Absolutely. I think so. The number one thing is I think when I started in the business, we had to go grab clients versus getting referrals. And the way that we were able to do that was we actually ask all of our potential clients is, have you talked to another advisor yet? Do you actually know what an advisor-client relationship is? Have you had any experience with it? So kind of understanding, we're trying to meet our clients or people who are asking about getting help, where we're meeting them. Do they understand really what our occupation and role is? Mm-hmm. Do they think we're stockbrokers, that we're just going to call them once every couple of months and pitch a stock? Or do they expect, like us, what we do, a full comprehensive financial plan where we're breaking down your budget, your income, your savings, your cash flow, and then we incorporate investments if it's appropriate. So the number one thing you got to ask your advisor when you're looking for one is kind of get you an understanding for yourself. What do you need? What are you really looking for? What are the answers or the questions you're trying to get answered? I think that can first lead you to the type of advisor you want. It's different. Like not everyone works like us. Some people are very much investment leading, right? They want to hedge funds, private equity. They want to lead with, hey, we got great investment strategy. Or we lead with, hey, we are all about financial planning. So understanding what you kind of want is really important. That's kind of the first question you got to ask yourself, and then ask that advisor, what type of advisor, what's your business model? I think the biggest thing that people forget to ask is fees. I think fees are very important. How much are you looking to have an advisor that you have to pay money to? Or maybe do you need someone just to help you set up your initial financial plan, and then you're good. Then you're able to kind of see the whole picture, and then you can go use some of the great tools out there like Acorn and Robinhood, and kind of piece together your investment strategy after that. So I think there's a lot, like Bank of America has the Khan app, Khan Academy. So there's all these different apps that everyone has that can kind of teach you like money. A really great platform that's actually for women out there, Ellevest, E-L-L-E-Vest, is a really great platform for any women, like for women-based platform built by women, and it's one of the best platforms I think for anybody. But that's just another one I like to highlight. But excuse me. So again, the questions you ask is, what type of advisor are you? You yourself have to ask yourself, what are you looking for? The fiduciary, what type of, do you have fiduciary responsibilities? Because some people, some advisors, like in the Merrill offices or some of these wirehouses, they aren't what we call fiduciaries. We have to do everything, again, in the best interest of the client. They can make, there's a little nuance where they make the best decision based off of the information versus the client. Oh, okay. And that's literally based off our registration, which is the whole SEC thing. So understanding, are you a fiduciary, is another big question you need to ask your advisor.
And just wondering, with that being a fiduciary, does that mean you being a fiduciary, is there like Are there any legal ramifications for you? Like if
our level of scrutiny, or basically what the standards we adhere to, are much higher than you would at a wirehouse when you're not a fiduciary, where it's like, yeah, I made that recommendation based on information, not taking into account costs, right? Liquidity, risk. That's what you can do if you're not a fiduciary. If stuff hits the fan and clients like the SEC or the FINRA does a audit of us and they see us making inappropriate recommendations or all of a sudden they see, man, this client's costs or fees are really high, we lose our license for that, where that wouldn't be the situation for a non-fiduciary. So there's just higher standards and higher qualifications. I'm sure you guys have seen like the certified financial planner certification that's really, really big and pressing now. So those are some other qualifications that just kind of give you, the advisor has to stay at a higher level of standard or have a higher level of standard. But then I think that also gives clients a little more assurance. Okay, this person's really looking out for me and taking everything into consideration.
Okay.
Yeah. And just another thing is like, what type of clientele do you have, right? What's your demographic of clients? What's the demographic of your firm? How many assets under management do you have? Like, are you working with a small or more boutique advisor, like maybe ourselves, or are you working with, Merrill Lynch, where you have, the 2,000 advisors working with multiple people? So also your fit. Like, do you something a little more boutique, like what we're doing, a little more personalized? And I'm advertising ourselves right now. Or do you want to
do it.
Go ahead.
Another drop in a giant bucket that is the wirehouses and all that. So that's some of the big things you'll want to understand about an advisor if you're looking for one.
Oliver, could you clarify? Do you work with? I know you work with individuals. Do you work with businesses as well, with wealth management?
We work with our clients' businesses. So a few clients are entrepreneurs and own their own businesses. So we help them structure those. We really help our clients do everything. So we have a client that, like you guys have seen, I'm going to give him a shout out. Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Oh, great movie.
How about gentrification?
Gentrification. So one of the stars in the movie is Jamal Truelove. He's an exoneree. He did wrongfully convicted in San Francisco. So kind of using him as an example of the range that we work with him, or most of our clients is, right, we get them started, he gets a settlement, we create his budget. He wants to be an entrepreneur. He wants to start his own music label, kind of like media label. And so helping him create the LLC, put all the legal docs to work. We have an accountant set up for him to actually manage and do all the bookkeeping. So we do help all that initial setup if a client or person doesn't have their own resources to get their business up and running. We have people within our company and our partners that help set all that stuff up business-wise for our clients. So we do all his private investing and his money management, personal money management. But then we also have set him up with, his company Trifecta to help him kind of manage that part of his life, because that's where he wants to start collecting his income. And so we work with our clients, especially if they're entrepreneurs, how to complement your personal. Usually, with like me, an entrepreneur, my personal finances are my businesses, is my business finance. So yeah, we do work with our clients' businesses if they are an entrepreneur.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know, Julian, Pat. So I mean, he pretty much. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, 10 and 11, I think kind of go together. So Julian, you can kind of almost knock those off at the same time.
So what would be like the difference and the description of the active management versus passive management?
Yep. So this is a question that we're getting a lot, and something that is really important to understand. So passive management, that is essentially when we hear about these ETFs, so exchange traded funds or index funds. These were created in the 90s to let people who didn't know what individual stock to pick, right? Didn't know, should I buy Apple today? Should I sell Microsoft like tomorrow? People just said, you know what? Give me exposure to the market, I can be well diversified, but I don't have to worry about the day-to-day active management of picking, selling, and buying stocks. Just give me diversified, give me into the market. So that's what we call passive management, and the vehicles that you get or that allow you to be passively managed into equities, and equities just being stocks, we're talking about stocks here, are the ETF. So you can buy the S&P 500, right? SPY is probably the most common index fund that there is, SPY, which is that gives you the full range of the S&P 500. So today the S&P 500 was down, 12 points, a few points. So then your investment is going to be down the exact same amount. So you are literally going up and down with that index, and that index can be any major benchmark, like S&P 500, Dow Jones, Russell 3000, NASDAQ, or it can also be a particular sector. So you can own an ETF that actually basically tracks or buys you all the S&P 500 tech companies. So that ETF is actually doing very well. You can buy a basket or an index of either a benchmark or a certain sector. You can have an ETF in energy stocks. You can have an ETF in oil. So all these different things where you have to pick the individual stocks like Exxon or whoever within the oil industry. You just buy the index that tracks all of them. And you can just kind of let it go. And so that is passive management. And where active is the exact opposite. You are actually going in. You have a manager or yourself that goes in and buys actively individual stock names. And that takes a lot of skill. Usually when we do that for clients, we hire a manager to go ahead and do that. So those are the big differences, and what's good versus the other. Active management is more expensive because usually you have to hire a manager to go in and trade your stocks. Also, the tax consequences of buying and selling stocks is going to also affect your performance. Where in the index, you're usually putting money in and you're letting it go. And so you're not getting as much, I guess, tax consequences in that. And the last thing about the two is what should we use now? During what market environment do you want to use one over the other? So usually passive or active management outperforms passive management during downturns, during volatile times. So right now is where we're actually shifting a little bit more into active management because of the COVID. Like so many industries within the companies within S&P 500 are being destroyed, right? Airline industry, airline stocks, oil stocks, travel and leisure. So this is the time where active management, being able to say, I guess, to actually go in, I'm going to actually select these tech stocks or these IT stocks now, because those are going to be the active management is where they make their money. Is you want to protect me on the downside, meaning if S&P drops 10%, active managers better not be dropping that same level as the indexes. They should probably protect better on the downside because their ability to buy and sell out of certain positions. And even during up markets, like we have been for the last 10 years, passive management has been outperforming because everything has been going straight up. So active management is hard to outperform the stock market when it's rising just because everything is good. Everyone's throwing money into index funds and they're just flying. Now everybody pulled their money out of index funds because they saw the sharp declines. And then they wonder, like, what do I do now? Here's where you need to make sure you rotate, if you're able, to active management, where you're picking some names that you see are really attractive, right? The Zooms, the Pelotons, the Microsofts. Apple came out with their earnings. So the tech stocks really I'm really liking these days. That's where you kind of outperform is during volatile markets, and you also mitigate the downside, which is a lot of people don't forget, like, if you lose 50%, you have to make 100% just to break back even.
Right.
Oh, I lost 50%. All right, if I make 50% back, it's you're halfway there. So sometimes you win by not losing. Like that is the biggest thing, and clients will always remember their worst year, and they won't remember their best year. They will always remember, man, oh wait, terrible year. But if you ask any of our clients, when was your best year? They would be like, I have no idea. But they will always remember their worst year. And so that's another thing you always got to remember when investing is sometimes it's better to protect the downside and give up a little bit of the upside, because the downside is really hard to come back from, because that's when you make the bad decisions. When you lose money, you're like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I buy? That's why you need to have a mixture of both in terms of passive and active, but that's why you want active usually during this time period.
Okay. I guess Patrick, this the last question? Or
well, it's like, is it possible to outperform the market
Yeah, so it's possible to outperform the market if you have if the market, let's say your benchmark is. So if you're mostly the benchmark that people use to determine if you're the stock market is the S&P 500 or the Russell 3000, like really shows you how the total market is doing. And you can outperform them, right, by active management right now, being a little more conscientious, able to find those discounted stocks and being able to ride those up higher. When you have an index fund and your benchmark is the S&P 500, you're not going to outperform the S&P 500 if you own the SPY, right? So you can outperform the market if you have some active management and you're invested in some other asset classes. So right now, like other asset classes might be like fixed income or bonds. Those aren't performing very well, but that's another way to diversify, maybe get extra returns. So we look at all types of assets to diversify our clients' portfolios. Right now, right, we like equities because of how low they got and where they're headed, and we're kind of equities are you invest in stock for forward thinking. You kind of think like, what is the future? You think the future is bright, or do you think it's dim? And that's how you should invest. We're the thinking where the future is brighter, but you can't. The reason why it's always difficult to people say time the market. Can you time the market? When do you realize when it's time to go in? It's impossible to time the market. It's all about knowing. The biggest thing about investing is you invest to have your money available when you need it. And if you know that I have this $10,000 to invest and I don't need this money for the next 3-5 years, okay, let me be a little bit more aggressive because I have low liquidity needs and I can invest at a time. So you don't want to put 10,000 in all at once, especially during volatile periods when the market's going up and down, up and down. You kind of want to put $2,000 maybe every week for 5 weeks. So you're catching the market hopefully going up and down, but not, let's say if you put your money in 2 weeks ago when they had the best week in the last 40 years in the market, great. But if you had done it 6 weeks ago, you had the worst day since 1929. So it's about timing, dollar cost averaging into the market. So you're taking what you want to invest and investing it periodically, same tranches over time. So you're not hitting one massive decline or one massive incline, which would be better, but you're mitigating the risk by spending that, getting into the market over time. So we always encourage you to invest periodically, especially now. We don't know exactly what the movement's going to be. We know it's going higher, but it's having its dips on the way up. Being able to invest periodically is really important as well. How you can outperform the market is by active management, diversifying, by getting into maybe real estate or gold, having different asset classes that might be while the market's going down, these are going up. So we have found a few investments that have outshined drastically during this time that have really kind of mitigated the losses people have had in the stock market.
Is there, Oliver, is there any takeaways during this time? Like, is there any tips you can give the people during this time?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is just money, habits, and investing. It's all emotional. And I always say there's the two most intimate things about somebody that you don't ask, right? How much money you get or how healthy are you? Like those are the two things like, whoa, like
right.
People are uncomfortable going to see their doctor and going to see their financial advisor. Like those are the two people that you like, how am I doing? Am I doing all right? You get the checkup or you're good. There's also the two people that can make you feel the most happy leading their offices are financial advisors and doctors as well.
Right.
So it's all about And this is the time as everybody is really anxious and kind of fearful, and the future is unpredictable. It's about being able to control the controllables, and that's what we always say to our clients. It's like, you can't really control what the stock market does. You can't control what it does. You can't. Unfortunately, you can see that your job is not always there for you as well. The economy. What can you control right now is your expenses, how you're spending your money, and that's how everyone right now should look at a time where hopefully we're not spending as much as we are. To kind of take a look back this quarter and in 2020 and look at your spending habits in your budget. This is the best time to put together your budget. Probably put together 3 different budgets, during these last 3 weeks. Just like, okay, maybe we change this or we change that. So this is the perfect time for reset. The economy is hit a reset. Society is hit a reset. This is the time for you to really look down on your budget and see what can be cut out, what is essential, what is not essential, and what is aspirational. And start to structure your cash flow based off of that. Create accounts and fund those 3 different categories. And I think that is the one thing, is to don't be afraid to look under the hood. It might be ugly, right? It might be ugly, but at least and there's always steps you can take to fix the problem, to learn, and there's always help there if you need it as well, right? There's always help there. There's always help. There's programs that you can get online, people like us, like me, in our firm, and we meet you where you're at. You're not having to come in with piles and piles of money. We have a program for everyone to get in place to kind of get started, and that's all people need to do, is they need to know where to start. And so we can provide that, and a lot of different programs online to do that as well now.
Okay.
All right.
Dope.
We do have some Q&As like that, some extra additional questions. Julie, you want to ask that first one? Because this is
absolutely.
Okay. Wait, hold on. Because we got some people who actually came in on like Facebook and.
Go ahead.
So I'll post the first one on the screen. Oliver, you already started to answer this question anyway, but if there's anything that you want to add on top of it, so there you go, Julian.
How has this pandemic affected your firm and your customer?
Yeah, how it's affected our firm. So it has affected our firm. We lost, most firms probably lost a bit of their assets under management because of just the stock hit that we took. And because we have a more relatively younger clientele who have a little bit more of risk appetite, and therefore they're a little more heavier allocated towards stocks, they took the AUM took a hit. But the one positive thing about that is, because our clients are on a younger scale, we're between ages of 25 and 40, they didn't freak out about it as much, right? They understood, okay, we took a hit, 2020 is going to be bad, 2021 probably going to be better, but again, I don't need that liquidity, that money right now. So I understand that it's not time to panic, because Oliver and Annie and it's always about. That's why we lead with financial planning, right? We have a system. Our financial plan will run scenarios for our clients that takes into account there will be market downturns, there will be volatility. So we run worst case scenarios for clients. Like, what if the market went down 50%, like it did in 08, 09? Can your goals still be met? Okay, yes, they can. Great. So we already knew who would have suffered with this type of decline, and for us, none of our clients did. And the really exciting thing was that clients were like, "Oh, this is the time I should buy, right? So like sell high, buy low." So most of our clients called up and were like, "Isn't this the time we should start getting back in?" So we actually started to buying back equities, essentially like mid-March, even before we hit the bottom on March 23rd. So again, we knew if you started investing in 2 months, you're too late, right? You could be too late to the party. It's hard to get to time it. But our clients have been really responsive, have been really great. So it hasn't really affected us in terms of our clientele. They've been really, again, they know, they've been really, I think we've been able to teach them well about moments like this. As a firm, COVID, right, Zooms, we're talking to clients more than ever. Like, if you don't hear from your advisor during this time, you need to get a new advisor. This is the time where you need to be talking to your clients. Like, you need to make the rounds that first week when stuff hit the fan. That's a red flag. And so we are in constant, that's what's changed, just more communication. Right? We know clients are at home, so we're sending them gifts. Like we've got them a little tic-tac-toe boards.
Right.
They can like keep their mind busy. So right now it's just about client touches. So that's kind of what the COVID has done for our firm.
Okay.
All right.
Pat, what's the next question?
Okay. Up on the screen. Knock it out, Julian.
Yeah.
Okay. So what tips do you recommend for saving and building financial stability during COVID-19? Any tips on what to do with the stimulus check by Fit Body by Ashley? Holla.
Stimulus check.
Stimulus check, man. Saving, like this is, like I mentioned before, this is the best time to save because of low expenses. If you happen to still have your same income. So the best thing for you to do for savings right now is, like I said, if you're able, we always want you to start with saving at least 10% a month on the low end, 20% on the ideal end of money, net money right now. Should be put into a savings account and build up that emergency savings. I mentioned that you want to have enough savings, probably around 6 months worth of your fixed expenses. You want to have saved up for situations like this. If you're able to save beyond that, then we want to start looking at tapping into the retirement accounts before you jump into investing into Robinhood or taxable, so a brokerage account. So it's always emergency savings if you're able to fund that right now, and look for accounts that have some high yield, not so high yield, but higher yields. Like there's bank accounts that will give you 0.001% where it's nothing's happening. But there are better accounts out there that, like Ally Bank, that's a really good, has a great savings account rate of 1.35% right now on their savings account. That's more than stock, like regular bonds are paying. There's Goldman Sachs Marcus, also very high yield savings account, and then Capital One. So if you're looking to put money away where it's still giving you, it's still in cash, but at least giving you better than the national average, look at those three accounts or the banks for your savings account. And then again, if you're able to start contributing into a retirement account, start off with the 401k or an employee-sponsored one, so you can hopefully get a match and get free money put into your account. And after that, then the IRA. And if you're after that, then we could talk about taxable investing and getting into some index funds to start, or looking at some more. If you're really into investing and wanted to pick stocks, then I will recommend apps like Robinhood or Acorn or talking to an advisor.
Okay.
For the stimulus check, I think it's save it if you don't need it. Again, like that should be added to whatever that first bucket is. If it's the emergency savings bucket that goes into, then put it there. If it goes to paying off debt, paying debt, put it there first. Just before the savings bucket, high interest rate debt, put it towards that, because that's going to minimize the debt that or increase your cash flow on a month-to-month basis. So maybe apply to a credit card, which you've been paying the minimum payment for the last 2 years, and it's slowly creeping up. So look at reducing some of your high interest debt. And that's another tip right now, because of the government assistance, right, the PPP. Look at freeze if you have a mortgage. Call your bank and see if you can actually put a freeze on your mortgage if you're struggling to keep up with that, because actually banks are accepting freezes on their mortgage. They're not going to charge you interest on it. The same with credit cards and car loans. So look to, if you are kind of struggling to keep up with the bills on the debt side, you call that financial institution and see if you can get it deferred for the next, at least 6 months. I've seen as long as 6 months until this all carries over.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's go to the next question. Patrick, or Julian?
Go ahead, Julian.
Okay. I am late to the party, so you might have mentioned this already, but at what income level do you think one should hire a financial advisor?
So I don't think I think income level is actually the one I think that probably wouldn't cause you to go see an advisor first. It's your cash flow. If you start seeing some positive cash flow, if you start seeing the ability to actually save money outside of your emergency savings, that is a sign that you might be wanting to start to do something beyond just saving in cash. and want to talk to an advisor about, okay, where else can I put my money when now that I have my emergency savings set up. So it's more about I would say your assets, your available assets, how much money you have, or your increase in net cash flow, which could be like if you have higher income, usually you hopefully have more available cash, but that also depends on how much you spend as well. So I think that's when it's more of a asset-based decision to go see an advisor, or hey, I have this cash here, there's an excess cash flow coming in, might trigger you to go see an advisor versus your income. I also think any major life situation, right? If you're buying a house, maybe consult with a mortgage broker or financial advisor. Is this the right house? Is this the right amount I should be paying for this? I'm getting married. Like maybe how do I have my partner? How do we start talking about family? I'm going to do that right now. So it's about these life moments that's usually when people reach out to us. Like I just finished off paying student loans. I finally get all this money. Like finally, I can actually put some to work now. Or hey, I'm getting married, or I'm buying a house, or I'm having my first child, or all these different life moments. Those are the time when you need to hopefully reach out to someone just to check the temperature of what you should do. So I think those are more important things to look at in terms of determining if it's time for you to see an advisor versus your income.
Wow, incredible. What's the next question, Patrick? Investment.
Hey, say it. Hey, man, do it right, man. Say it the way he typed it.
From Garcon Cabela.
Come on, you got Bogota. You gotta do it right, man. Come on.
Investment EA. There it is.
Okay, garçon capable. So, which is a capable man. Okay.
But yeah, no, he actually has a question though. Hold on.
Yeah. What do you think of? Okay.
Oh, what does he think of Robinhood and TD Ameritrade?
Okay, so TD Ameritrade is actually where we hold our clients' assets. That's our custodian. So all of our clients' assets, the majority of them, some of them are in other funds, but that's our bank or our custodian where we manage our clients' assets. So TD Ameritrade is I would say here's the difference between TD Ameritrade and Robinhood. Robinhood is a kind of robo-advisor. And what is a robo-advisor? It's a platform that you can go in, ask you a questionnaire. Hey, I'm 34 years old. I have this income, this much in assets. Help me create my portfolio. So it's all based off a system and algorithm. And so those are I would say individual investor friendly that's trying to start to build an investment portfolio. But TD Ameritrade, that is more of, there's no robo-advisor aspect to TD Ameritrade to the quality of Robinhood. Yes, there's some model portfolios they put together, but in terms of teaching you and kind of curating your portfolio more efficiently, and that's really its purpose, is Robinhood. TD Ameritrade is someone who kind of knows what to do. Like I can open up a brokerage account at TD Ameritrade and I can start trading my own. It's not going to be as it's not going to lead with education as much. So I think if you're starting out and you want to just learn about investing in stocks and kind of dipping your foot in, use Robinhood. It's also cost effective. TD Ameritrade costs a lot more money. There's the trading fees, right? Trading costs are lesser on Robinhood. So kind of for the new investor that wants to keep things low cost and educational and needs more direction, Robinhood, TD Ameritrade, that's where if you're self-proficient in investing, you can open up an account, brokerage account there. Or most likely advisors, right? Firms use TD Ameritrade like us to invest clients' assets.
Okay. All right. Is there? Let's go to the next one. Yeah, Julian, go ahead.
What are your thoughts on cryptocurrency? Are there any alternative investment that you think are better?
So I'm not big into crypto. Like that's something I remember when it got popular. Like I just never got on the bandwagon. So really? I never did, and I think it's because I just didn't understand it well enough at that time. And so now, the volatility. Also, when I'm one of the things as an advisor, again, I have to practice what you preach at times, and the fact that I did not have enough knowledge on cryptocurrency and the volatility did not make sense to me. I stayed away from it. But now with blockchain and some of the other things in place, and as we see kind of Bitcoin being the kind of the benchmark for cryptocurrency, there's more stability. And you see this week, there was a huge rally in cryptocurrency as well. So I see it as what it is, alternative investment. If it's appropriate and you're able to use the risk, I would stay away from it if you aren't a more nuanced investor. If you're not ready for it to understand the risks, the risks associated with them and the swings. So that's my kind of pretty much my opinion on crypto. But we really do a lot on alternatives, and we really focus in on venture capital and private equity and private placement opportunities. We do that because we see the private markets, right, owning privately held shares of certain companies, or being able to be part of funding of pre-IPO companies, tech companies. We've seen wealth accumulation for those. We see that there is actually an effective way to invest into private companies. So we have been able to source really some unique opportunities to like, we got some clients into Lime and to Lyft early before they IPO'd. We have clients into Churro, which is the car sharing, rental car sharing application.
Right.
Consumer products like Noble, which is a sports apparel company. Some more interesting companies that we're able to source from our Silicon Valley partners and angel investors was that really, I mentioned these investments that kind of blown everything out the water since COVID. One company we invested into was a remote patient monitoring application for people who had chronic care illnesses and this platform essentially allowed people with chronic care illnesses, so diabetes, respiratory issues, high cholesterol, pretty much anybody at high risk. Allow them to, this was before COVID, so they were able to partner with Apple and Google and some of these companies that make these, the Fitbits, the Apple Watches, other different technologies that help you measure, even, blood pressure and glucose levels.
Right.
Being able to do that from home, uploading it onto this software system, and then being able to send that to your doctor, and so your doctor can teach you remotely. So we invested into them back in August of last fall, and now with COVID hitting, when people who suffer from chronic illnesses can't go see their doctors,
right,
outside, still need to communicate. Now they're getting picked up by those names that want to buy them. And this is a company that we wanted to raise. We only raised $2.5 million for it. And we didn't have any minimum investment, so clients could put in $2,000, $5,000 to own a privately held share of this company. And now we hope, right? The hope is this company gets bought by Google or by Apple, in a couple of years, at a 20x multiple, and something that you're not going to get in 20 times your money. That's the target range for when we got into that company. Another company we invested into alternatively was a company that's a cloud-based alcohol distribution company. So they created a cloud-based distribution channel where alcohol maker can sell it right to an alcohol buyer directly through their system without having an actual distribution company putting the alcohol on trucks and distributing it to the store. And because alcohol sales are up 80% in America right now, they're absolutely crushing it.
Of course.
It's all another data analytics company we invested in. So it's all these different private placements, these unique companies, and most of them are all related to data and technology that are outside of the public markets that we're able to invest our clients' money in. And when the market zags, they zig. And unfortunately for us, we've been diversified amongst all three. That they all have seen exponential growth during COVID. So that's the alternative. That's what alternatives are supposed to do. They're supposed to give you a return if your traditional assets might not be going the same way, or they could go the other way. So it's always good to understand what portion of your money you're going to put in alternatives based off your risk, and know that those monies are locked up longer. So you got to know as well, I can't just pull my money out of this private investment. It's not like the stock market. So understanding your liquidity needs, again, know that these investors might not pay out for 1 to 3 years, depending on what stage that company is in. So we've really been alternatively looking at private investments and venture capital. So we see a really big kind of growth there, especially coming out of COVID.
Excellent. Okay. What's the next question? Actually, Oliver, that company that deals with distributing, I guess, medical records from the patient directly to the primary care.
Yeah.
Do they also help supplement electric health record? Do you know anything about that?
Yep. So they actually teamed with Picasa, which is a big EMR company, to actually use them and the doctors that use that their EMR system to go to those physician offices and use CareMinder as a company, CareMinder.
Right.
And so they actually approached them first because the medical records, and I became a healthcare expert just because of this company.
Right.
Understanding that not everyone uses the same system. So being able to go to each of these EMR systems and teaching them about the platform, and then them going out to those doctors' offices and those physician groups to say, hey, we're using CareMinder to store your records. Make sure you transition all your clients your patients onto the platform. So yeah, they do all that. They're HIPAA. They're one of the only company that's actually doing this right now.
That's groundbreaking to hear because, just a little fun fact, Oliver. I was a research scientist before I got into comedy, so I understand how clients can travel, but old school hospital or primary cares, they would have all the paperwork written out. So to have it digital, that helps out so many patients that can't move, that are diabetic, that are at high risk.
Yep.
That a doctor can really pull up your file with one click and be like, in 2010 in July we did this checkup, so you might not be prescribed the wrong medication or whatnot. Very, very helpful.
It's incredible. They just started. So they have journeys, right? They track patients based off of their illness, right? They have cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension. So they now create. So it's a journey. Are you taking your medication? How are you responding? You have regular check-ins, and you don't have to call your the one thing. I think the biggest thing is that most of these patients are older patients.
Right.
The big question was, can they adapt to the technology and do it? And it was. We also know that most older patients either have a caregiver or they have children that come in and check and they can do that for them anyway. Right. So that, and the fact that older generation is getting more comfortable with phones. But that was the big thing, can older folks do this? Can they keep up with the technology? And of course they can. And in situations like this, they have to. They can't go now. So this is a need. And so that was really incredible to see that it was going to be a sound investment anyway, but how quickly it became so attractive that they even created their own COVID journey. So someone who tracks COVID now can take their fever, right? Take their temperature, send it to their doctor. They can tell them exactly what to do now in the COVID journey. So one great thing, we're going to see so many industries change, so many different companies that are going to be innovative during this time. So we were fortunate to get in on some of those companies even before this pandemic occurred.
Incredible. You're hired. What's the next question? Oliver, do you have a master class or perhaps a free research checklist guide? This girl has a lot of questions for no reason.
We have both. We definitely have free resources and checklists and kind of fact sheets. What is a 401k? How do you invest in it? What's an IRA? What's a Roth? So we really put together an educational series for how do you create your own business, how do you register LLC. So all these things we have put together that we could send out to people who want that fact sheet, just basic, one page, really breaks it down simply what certain things are financially related. And then masterclass, we haven't had official one. We have one geared towards women, and my teammates, my partners, Annie and Nicole, they have a women's empowerment financial workshop that they do.
Oh, nice.
So that's something that they've already developed. We're in the middle of, so the masterclass that we host for our athletes, we have a separate individual that actually hosts that, Rashawn Williams. He's one of the biggest Black VCs, the successful VCs there is, works for Manhattan Metric Partners. So he does a masterclass for athletes and non-athletes that we get all of our young guys into to learn. So we have some recommendations. People want some.
Oh, excellent. Okay. So we have a couple more. Once again, Oliver, thank you so much for this. This is great information.
Absolutely.
Okay. Julian, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So what are your thoughts on using insurance policies as a savings investment?
So I think that the insurance policies are great at the right time. So we always got to think about what is the purpose of life insurance. And it shouldn't be, especially for the primary reason for life insurance is the death benefit, right? If something were to happen to me, I want my beneficiaries to receive my the lump sum or whatever benefits I have. That's the first usual thing that you do with life insurance, the death benefit. And you can do that with just regular term insurance, right? To make sure that you cover your loved ones. And let's say you have debt on a mortgage or your student loans that you don't want that to be passed on and burdened onto or your kids or your partners. You want to have that policy in place to wipe out that as well. So that's usually the first thing you want to view a life insurance policy as. Now, there are products that get a little more sophisticated where you have the ability to actually have some income potential. So you pay the premium, you're getting the death benefit, right? That's the most important thing, usually the most important thing, depending on who you are and what you need in life. Then there is the potential to actually have an income rider. So if you're below the age, if you're 60 years younger, it's going to operate similar to similar to an IRA or retirement vehicle, where you put money in, right? You pay into it, you pay your premium, you get your death benefit, but then there's a cash value that's being accumulated in the policy. Usually that's a guaranteed rate, like 5%. And the reason insurance companies can do that is because insurance companies are some of those profitable companies in the industry in the world, right? New York Life is like it's insane how much money they have. They have bigger market cap than Apple, Disney,
Wow.
And I want to say Coca-Cola combined. So like that's how big that's a privately held company. Like that's not a publicly traded, that's a privately held company. New York Life is cash rich because of the premiums and because of the availability, how much cash they have, and everyone gets insurance. And so that's why they can guarantee people 5% return on their cash value of their policy in the whole life policy, because the insurance business is always making money. Mm-hmm. And has the cash available to give you that rate of return. So I would access insurance only as a savings or investment vehicle after you have done everything else, right? Emergency savings, retirement savings. Okay, then you have a nice taxable brokerage account. Okay, now if you're looking for more guaranteed income, and I would say this is probably for older folks who know, like, hey, I just want my 5% off of, my $1 million. I know I'm going to live off this for the next. I'm 60 years old. My lifestyle is not going to change. I don't want to put my money at risk with the market. I'm good. Put it into a safe life insurance guaranteed income, a whole life policy. So that is the vehicle for someone maybe that has more older and has a little more idea of what their lifestyle is and knows that guaranteed income that an insurance policy may have will supply that. Other than that, I think when you're young, right, when you're not married, you don't have kids, no real need for life insurance unless you can get it through your company. Once you have people in your life that you love and need to take care of, your life insurance, get that death benefit. Then if you have enough money, because those premiums are pretty high for those whole life policies, then you can maybe use some of the whole life policies to do some savings or investments in, but only to supplement everything that you've done before.
Wow. What's the next one? This is great.
Thoughts on investing back in Congo, back home?
I mean, that's the dream, right? That's we are fortunate enough to have some land still back there.
Uh-huh.
Do I know who's actually taking care of it? Do they know what's going on with it? I don't know. So I would love to. I mean, I think was it the PayPal CEO who's like founder who's investing a lot in Africa. Like I always say, follow the what did Jackie Chan say? Follow the rich white man in Rush Hour 2.
Sure.
When you see that investment happening in Africa, when you see these large organizations, even going back to sports, the NBA, how much they're investing in Africa, how much you see the Chinese investing in Africa.
Right.
I think going back home and not, again, don't make the same mistake twice, letting other people take our resources and make money off of it.
Right.
We as young people, now that we have more of the know-how to go back and invest into Congo, right? That's something my sisters and I want to do. We want to understand. We want to pick a time to go back and assess the situation and see what opportunities are out there.
Right.
That is absolutely something that I want to personally do, but I think that in general, the opportunities in Congo and if the environment and politically everything can be situated, there's no doubt that should be somewhere that needs to be you can put money into, especially just owning our land for one thing.
Right.
It would be the first thing to look to purchase there.
Excellent. I think we have. I think is this the last one? We have one.
We got a few more, maybe 2 or 3.
Okay. All right. You want to do this next one?
All right, let me put it up.
Oh, I like this one. Thank you very much.
No prenup.
Just
Always prenup.
Let's go. Yeah.
Prenup. Like, why not? It's just like life insurance, right? It's there in case you need it, and you don't need it. You don't need it. And so I think every client that comes in with significant assets, especially if it's one person has the assets and someone doesn't, we always 100% say you should get a prenup, and we are always happy to talk to that other individual we haven't had any pushback on that before from, let's say, the spouse or the partner that might not be on the opposite end of that. It's just a prudent thing to do. You know how relationships work, especially at the rate that this country is at, the divorce rate. And man, like I've seen some of my friends who got married in their 20s, got divorced in their 20s. And one person, it's lopsided, and it just makes sense. There's no harm in doing it. So definitely prenup. Student loans or not student loans. I always go back and forth on that one because my whole family took out student loans.
Right.
And yes, it worked out for us. But I do see you have to. I think there's a whole issue with the education system. Period. Like, oh my, universities are just greedy corporations now, and I think right now it's more about the student loans are a reaction to the fact that education is so overpriced, and that people before they enter college, and I would say this is the most important thing to decide if student loans or not. Before you go into a certain university or not, do the return on investment analysis before you decide to put in hundreds of thousands of dollars in some universities, situations like Northwestern. Before you decide, I'm going to go to Northwestern, pay $50K a year in tuition, then I'm going to become a Chicago public school teacher and make $80,000 a year, $100,000 tops. And so that is, right, that's on, unfortunately, on that person to then realize, all right, what is my cost of my education? What do I think my return on my education will be? And if that return makes sense, and you need to get a little bit of credit, just like you better get a mortgage to buy a house because you think there's going to be value in the house when you sell it. Same thing with your education. If you think you can go to a school, you're going to take out a loan to pay for it. But hey, when you get out of college, when you sell your position in college, you come out and make more money, and it's worth it. So I think it's more about the analysis of what is your income potential going to this university with, studying in this field. And if it makes sense to then take on X amount of debt and X amount of interest over X amount of years, and that's a whole math calculation, then yes, do that. But I think that's the one thing that the education system has really failed is just making parents and students aware of, hey, this is what actually could happen after you leave. Use your income potential. So I think that's the first thing you want to figure out before you say yes or no to student loans.
Wish I would have met you at 18.
Me too.
Yeah.
You would have saved so much debt. Jesus Christ. Let's go to the next.
Actually, no, I wanted to throw one thing on before we went to the next one. To backtrack just a little bit with the prenup aspect of it. Because obviously, you mentioned if your assets, it might be a good idea to get that prenup. Now, I just, preface this by saying I don't do family law. My area of law, I do government benefits. Mm-hmm. But what I can, or at least what I would want to say for sure is, if you go down that route and you want to get the prenup, and this is for both sides. Mm-hmm. For both sides, it's obviously where people like me, my brethren, my sister, and attorneys, we get involved. And you guys obviously now negotiate something that works for both parties. Because obviously the thing is, once that divorce happens, it's different. There's love and everything, but clearly it disintegrated or whatever happened. But now you guys are splitting. So you want to make sure that on the front end, you set something up good that you can both live with so that when, unfortunately not, but, if your, relationship falls apart and you guys decide to get that divorce, no matter how mad you are, still it's like, hey, the prenup says this.
Yep.
You agreed to it. I agreed to it. So this is what we're going to do.
Yep. And we fortunately have not been through a divorce, which is kind of crazy. But also kind of shows that we have a lot of single people and young families. So it'll probably happen. But like right now, like you said, we've had usually one person has the assets and one person doesn't. And so we usually work with that person with the assets to say, hey, you can make this prenup process very hard and difficult by saying he or he's not getting anything. Or you can make some exceptions, especially when you know that we'll invest that person with the money. They'll usually have some of that assets in their own name that they invest. So we say, hey, how about you give them the house in the case of a divorce? So we do make sure they understand, this is not good. We don't want this an all or nothing because there's going to be a massive fight. So it is a process, and luckily we have great attorneys that do all the family law for us, right? When there's divorces, when there's a lot of child support situations with a few folk, a lot. And so I feel like I have a second degree in family law because of a lot of situations that clients have gotten themselves into. But just seeing that, seeing the chaos that can ensue without having certain legal things put in place in terms of prenup, or even more importantly, estate planning. Oh my God, if someone were to pass and the assets are just everywhere, and I feel for the people that sometimes are named, successors or executors of someone's estate, especially if it's a mess. And so that's another huge thing that our culture our community's got to do is estate planning. If we want to have generational wealth, we got to properly pass it on. And without estate planning, which tells us, which spells out exactly, if I were to die, here's how my assets are going to be split. It's going to my parents, my sisters, my wife. Here's who's getting the car. Here's who's getting the house. Here's when my kids will get their money, so they don't get it all at once when they're 18 and go crazy. So all these things that we got to do, we have to put the work in, because you've worked your whole life to amass these assets, and you have taught your children, hopefully, the value of a dollar. Make sure that you pass that on the same way, because otherwise it's going to go into probate, it's going to tax like crazy, and all the hard work that you thought we were going to pass on to your kids or your family, it's not going to be there, or it's going to be drastically reduced. So that's estate planning, and just the whole legal side of protecting your assets is really important.
Estate planning, that includes a will. That's what you're saying, pertaining to.
Yep. Wills, trusts, all that fun stuff.
Yep, wills, trusts, power of attorney, right? Power of attorney tells somebody, if something were to happen to this person, this is who gets to direct my finances. Power of healthcare, if all of a sudden I were to go in a coma, fall ill, who's going to make those health decisions? Do I pull the plug out of it or not? So all those things you want to have in place that come together with estate planning, even though it's the most morbid conversation. Like, well, I don't want to talk about a situation where I'm not even here.
Right.
And like if you are in our business, especially, that's how most of these wealthy families get money, right? It's through proper estate planning, and that's we really want to have a community and a culture that is enriched and has generational wealth. If we're the first ones to really make it and be able to save money, we got to be the first ones to properly pass it on once we do.
Yeah.
I feel like the word, just the simple word, prenup, it's like one of the scariest words for rich people.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're on the wrong side of one, it is. Like they said it. I don't remember to say it, but they said it. Now we got to talk about it.
What's the next one, Pat?
Yeah. All right, and this is the last one, and it's a follow-up to the life insurance question from before.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. This thing will actually start showing.
Coming up.
Prenup, man, prenup.
Prenup.
Should take half, no matter what.
Yeah. I feel like once Kanye made that song, people actually were like, man, prenups. Like
that's why you need to get a woman that doesn't know your language and not educated. I'm just this is from our boy Garçon Capabel. I shouldn't use my life insurance for weddings?
Oh, you can use your life insurance for weddings. So like how you do that is you take out your cash value that you've accumulated through your premiums.
She did half, no matter what.
He pretty much finished it for me. Yeah. So I think that you can use insurance policies like that's cash value. You can always use it, right? That's your money. You paid into that policy to use it. So we've seen people use cash. We've seen people use life insurance policies, especially parents, right, to help pay for their kids' weddings. We've seen homes be bought. We've seen college be funded. So if you have that cash value in your life insurance policy, yes, you can. And if you don't want to, if you have no other savings outside of your retirement accounts or emergency savings, and you have that cash value in insurance policy instead of a brokerage account, then you can definitely use it. There's no penalty to using that. You'll just have to pay that back. The loan on getting the money out, but you can always access that cash value in that policy. So yeah, for the answer, yeah. You can use it for your
I know there's. I think what this last one, right? This has to be it. We're this guy's gonna work an 8-hour shift with us.
Oh, good man. got nowhere else to be.
We're good. All right. So last one. Sorry, anybody else who didn't get in. This is the last one. We gotta let the man go after this.
Pat, Julian, his last question, please.
Oh, I know this.
Okay, so this is coming from CMK. So be careful, people. What should we do first with any money we are saving right now? Pay off down debt or put it into savings?
So this is my sister.
Oh, hey,
okay. Hey, another Kupe. Hey, what's up?
I was right to say be careful.
Also shout out to my niece, my sister's daughter. It's her 9th birthday today.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Bon anniversaire!
Yeah. So to answer my sister's question, I think it's always a function of, is your debt allowing you to save? So if your debt expenses is so high that it's not allowing you to save, then obviously pay off the debt amount. I always lean initially pay off debt before savings, but it also depends what type of debt it is. If it's fixed debt, like it's student loans, right? Don't pay off and it's a reasonably interest rate like 4.5%, and it fits fine with because that's going to be your essential fixed expenses. So the debt that I would always want to reduce, so good debt, right? Student loans is quote unquote good debt because it's fixed, it's low cost. Mortgage, right? You don't want to just pay off your mortgage. That's good debt. It also helps you with your credit score. So there's also this aspect of there's good debt and there's bad debt. Credit card debt, bad debt. Lower that. Lower your debt on the credit cards. So I think it's always based off what the debt is. Is it a fixed debt? Is it low interest rate? And does it allow you to still have keep within budget? If it's bad debt, it means variable rates on mortgages or variable rates on credit cards. Some of these private loans that are out there now, take care of those before you keep your savings, because we want to be able to have consistent cash flow, and only that good fixed debt can allow you to do that. But that variable debt, that credit card debt, where it's interest piling on interest, take care of that. If you can. Otherwise, it's always healthy to have debt. Right? It's good to build up your credit. It's not smart to the moment you have the ability to pay off all your credit cards, do it all at once and never use credit cards again. No, you need to have credit history. So it's again a function of good debt versus bad debt, and are you able to, by eliminating that bad debt, does your savings, your cash flow, month-to-month cash flow increase enough to really have an impact on your savings? So that would be something that you want to look at, is just figuring out what the type of debt it is and the impact of eliminating would have on your savings, your cash flow, and go from there. But I think this is where you probably want to talk to an advisor or get a credit specialist or someone to look at, hey, is it a good idea for me to pay off my credit card or my student loan, or should I dump it into savings?
Excellent. Well, we're coming to an end, and let me say something, Oliver. It's funny, you made me more confident in money. We never talk about money. You know what I mean? Like I know I never talk about money. I just spend it. So this is.
I think it's the easiest thing to do. I'm no one's a finished product when it comes to money. Maybe Warren Buffett is, but it's like I said, all you can do is kind of figure out where you are and you want to start. And it is about feeling comfortable. And I understand, like, you're not going to have it right the first time. You're not going to have it right the 10th or 15th time. Money is fluctuating just like life. And life throws stuff at you. And it's just about being able to have the habits and kind of know how to maybe adjust and take advantage of the situation. But always educate. I'm glad that everyone got something from it.
Funny, we always ask this last question to every guest, and this is off the topic that the guest is presenting. What's your spirit animal?
Ooh, my spirit animal, I think, is a bear.
Why?
That is my spirit is a bear. I can calm and also tribal in a sense, like familial. I can be alone sometimes, right? Out fishing, doing whatever.
Yeah.
But I very, very much will stand on my hind legs if things go. If anyone steps to me or the situation is not good for people around me. So I think that's my spirit animal, to bear.
Okay, I was gonna say, hopefully Chicago didn't infest you and just now you're like a Bears fan or something.
Oh God, I don't agree about that. Do not put me in a category with Bears fans.
Okay, well, Oliver, where can people follow you and follow A&O Advisors?
Yes. So should have put my Instagram handle on my title.
We'll put it in the comment sections, and when we'll tag your business as well, so people can be able to follow you and find you.
Perfect. Yeah. So my Instagram is just at Oli Kupe, so OLIKUPE. And then you can find us at A&O Advisors on Instagram too.
Oh,
A&O Advisors with an O.
Okay, excellent. We just put it on the screen right now. So what we'll do is you can follow the Bantu Boyz, like us on Facebook, Instagram, subscribe on YouTube. Thank you for all the comments and all the questions that everybody have left us. What we'll do is when we put clips up on Instagram or whatnot, we will definitely tag your business. So, Congolese people are just people in general that, minorities and women that don't talk about money. This is a good place to go. I feel like these last 2 hours, I think I've immensely have learned so much. Yeah. Julian and Patrick, where can they follow you guys?
Amen. So you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Julian Chikuna right there. Chikuna, Julian_Chikuna, you know, and or at the Bantu Boyz.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, Patrick, let's go.
Look, as I said before, I'm a busy man, so I got a couple accounts. Persona Vet Camera, you can just read on the screen. Congolese YouTubers or African YouTubers, either, all those on Instagram. DM me, hit me up.
Hey, yeah, Oliver, before we leave, are you going to be at that Congo Summit?
Trying to, yep. So I know Sister Laura, she's trying to figure out, I think maybe hopefully April or maybe.
Yeah. So
if I'm not, I wish I would have been at it this year.
Yeah.
Wasn't for travel, but definitely going to be at it. Hopefully, A&O Advisors will continue to sponsor and I'll be there.
Okay, hopefully, because supposedly we're gonna host it. So if we host it in April and you're there, we'd love to discuss some more and try to figure out what we can do to work with you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd love to. Anytime you need to come back or have any questions, you guys I really enjoyed my time with you guys.
All right, thank you guys so much. Next week, and thank everybody for watching and streaming. And God bless. Merci.
God bless you. Oh, next time we come to LA, we have to play soccer. I used to play soccer too.
Oh, you bet it.
There it is.
Put the proof back on.
There it is.
All right. You all.
Thank you guys.
See you, fam.
All right.
All right. Peace.